Hi, my name is Jennifer. I am a librarian at Cedar Mill Library. I do web support, technology help, and I also am responsible for the selection of adult nonfiction books. I am here today to share a hobby with you, a creative process that has brought solace and even a spark of joy during this stay-at-home period. Basically, I'm going to walk you through the process of making a bouquet with flowers and foliage that can be found in your garden or your backyard. I have gathered some fairly common flowers and even some weeds and some other items that were in my garden and backyard, and I'll walk you through the process of looking at the individual flowers and then looking at how they contrast and complement other flowers and foliage, and then just see how the bouquet shapes. So I hope walking you through this process inspires you to make your own bouquets. And yeah, so we're gonna head over to the workstation and we'll get started there. Here we are at the workstation. I went ahead and gathered some flowers from the garden, as well as some foliage and some vases, and I also have some scissors and a couple twigs that I thought were kind of interesting. So before we begin, I'm gonna show you a couple of examples of bouquets that I made. You can see on the left is a garlic bloom in a old squirt bottle that I found in the backyard. And then we have a more complicated one that's in a little jar. You can see the branching out in different directions, the pop of purple. Over here, this one's a little more minimal with a rose, the fennel, and a couple of pieces of grass in there. And then the white vase is a dried out garlic bloom, which I just kind of love and have held on. It's from last year. I just love the different pull of the elements of it. So that's that. And then I'm gonna put the camera down and we'll kind of walk through making a bouquet. And before we begin, I'm not an expert. I did take one class and that kind of was influenced by the Ikebana style. And I think that definitely influences me. And the main principles that I draw from is thinking about examining the item and just really looking at it and taking in the flaws, the different directions that the stem goes into, the leaf, all the different elements of the flower. And then also just Ikebana is very meditative, so it is, you know, just really thinking about how these items exist in nature and just doing it typically in silence, but I'm gonna walk through that here. And then a few of the elements too, often like Ikebana pulls different elements, or I pulled some that are kind of more straight. We have the Yarrow, which blooms out, classic rose to kind of have some contrast. I've pulled some lavender here in different stages. So some are blooming, some are close to seeding. This is a weed that branches out, so I love that it has that pull and that dynamic feel to it. I've grabbed even some lemon balm. The grass, which kind of gives it a wispy sensation, and then even some wild carrot, and then I have some fennel. So you can grab, you know, herbs, you can grab vegetable tops, and then we have some clovers, different variations of those.
And then these like rabbit tails. When you're thinking about creating it, it's thinking about the pull between the vase and the flowers themselves. So I pulled a couple vases that are different heights and going to offer a little different elements to them. So often I'll begin with something more green, so that's going to be supportive and allow that in. But you know, sometimes these don't, it's going to be too tight in there. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to pull these leaves off so we have a little more room to work with. And then let's get something with a little more pull, or actually let's begin with color. And so looking at this guy, I really love that its neck kind of curves a little bit to the left. And then what I'm doing is just breaking off. I usually, you can also use scissors. And we're gonna see how that goes together. Cut it off a little bit more. I want a little, so far we have a very interesting dynamic going here with these two. They're so different. And then let's add in a little bit of purple. I think we'll go, so we'll give it a completely different feel. But I like that. And we're gonna just trim this down. Sometimes I hate losing some of the blooms, but you know, they just won't survive. And then, so here we go. We have already, I think this is looking quite lovely. What else to add in there? And, you know, sometimes it's just seeing what works and what doesn't work. I want to add in some of this. This is that geranium. All right, and I'll give let's do another view of that. And it's also, one thing is also you can look at it from above and you can see the flowers are each all going in different direction. And then when they're, you know, if you were to look at them more vertically, you see they complement each other and hold each other up. So I think this one is good. We're gonna call that one good. I usually will fill them up with water and then they, you know, and I place them around the house. Usually one's in the kitchen, one's in the bathroom, one's on the kitchen table. Just kind of gives that a little bit of joy, a little bit of nature into the house. Okay, so we're gonna use a taller vase, I think, here. Just starting off with this like thin but delicate weed. It has little yellow flowers, really delicate stems branching out. It looks like there'll be some more blooms on it, giving it some little time, which will also kind of change the feel of the bouquet over time. So we'll start with that. And I think we need something else. I want to try and use the rose. Seeing how that will do. I'll have to trim the rose quite a bit. And there's times where you know, you might cut it too short. So let's see. I don't know about that. I'm not feeling like that's the combination we need here. So let's try this, a little bit of purple right here. I'm putting it a little bit lower, and you can see. Let's go with a couple more of those. I know I have another clover. And sometimes you need to just make sure, see, you know, kind of, you don't want them always to be the exact same height. You want them to be able to like nestle or complement each other, not bump heads. So you'll see that I'm pulling that one slightly below the other one and trimming it that way. And I'm gonna remove the leaves at the bottom, because they don't need to be soaking in water. That often creates decay and muckiness within the vase. All right, so this is what we have so far. Very simple but delicate, but has a little bit of fullness to it. Let's go ahead, let's incorporate, I think this is it. We're gonna add some of the fennel. The fennel is very aromatic, which is lovely. And I just pulled off a couple of the stems at the bottom, and we're gonna see, is it at the right height? Does it need, it needs to be a little bit, well, it might work. It's really making it tall and stand out. I think we could possibly just go with that. I do feel we need a little bit of something to support it. Let's see. We have some of the wild carrot. So let's see how that does. And again, pulling off the stems. I'm gonna trim this down much further because I want it to be kind of more like a backboard in a sense. I think I'm gonna go with that. I think there's like a lot going on. There's a lot of delicateness with the fennel stems, and then just that delicate yellow weed. I think there's like a striking balance here between fullness and little light strings or like feelers going out. So we're gonna call that one good. And then I really definitely want to try and use the rose. This is a darker little bottle, kind of looks lovely in itself there. I also want to incorporate one of these stems, and I really love, putting in a stem. You can see the lichen on here. It gives it a pop of yellow, just really organic, and it has its own, flow to it. Let's see. I'm thinking this is going to be too much. Yeah, it just feels that's not going to work. So let's go. I'm going to trim this one down. Okay, so we have this strange contrast right now, just this like earthy stick and the elegant rose. Let's see. Might be time to incorporate some of these delicate lavenders. I always love that they have these little, tutus, reverse tutus at the bottom, that extra little support there. Let's just see, what is it gonna look like? And that's kind of striking in itself. Actually, I think it's, what we need is, I think, the yarrow, which also has amazing smell to it. And also keep in mind, if you have pets at home, check what you have in the garden and see if They might be dangerous to have around your pets. I always make sure, I have a cat, that the bouquets are not in reach, so they're out of her space, so she can't really access them. So this is pretty dynamic here. I'm almost feeling the placement of the rose needs to change. So what we're gonna do is we have to take out the yarrow, and then we are gonna trim this rose a little bit, just a tiny bit, because sometimes I have found I've overcut things, and then it just feels like the bouquet is over. Okay, so removing that stem, placing these back in, seeing, so you can see this is a little more snug. We got pops of color. Yeah, I think that's really lovely. And I really love how the yarrow leaf is just kind of dangling outside of the jar. So, all right, I think that's it for today. So thank you for joining me. Let's do one quick look at them all together. And I'm just gonna pull the camera. It's a little bit jarring. Yeah. So it's pretty simple, and then, you know, you get these extravagant, unique pieces that you can't buy at the grocery store or the flower shop. And they're also, you know, they're your inspiration, and what you find catches your eye. So, all right, thank you for joining me today, and stay tuned for more Create at Home. Take care. All right, I'm back for one more comment. One of my favorite things is to watch them, kind of how they change over time. And then often I will refresh the bouquets, pull out something that has browned or has lost its leaves, and then just add in another flower that was gathered from the garden, and just see how the bouquet transitions over time. And it's quite meditative and just a lovely process to observe and kind of get into. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll hopefully see you at another Create at Home. Take care. Bye.